I'm Andrew. My project is securing AI chatbots using tiered access and authentication. Everyone here use a chatbot, I'm assuming, right? All right, good. Thank God. We're halfway there. So some chatbots are becoming more and more prevalent. You see them all the time, whether it's a smarter, like all-purpose LLM, like ChatGPT, or even things for your bank or government or healthcare. And that trend is obviously probably only going to continue on as time goes on. So they're everywhere. And depending on how you're interacting with them, there's different levels of risk to data, personal, whether it's more public data, like asking a government chatbot what time is the library open from, or what time can I go to the DMV, or what forms do I need to bring, which are public things. Or if it's more of a private thing, if we're asking about account specific, whether it's your doctor's office or your bank. I know when I was looking at this project, I tried to ask my bank's chatbot what is the local office's phone number. I had to log in to even ask that question, and then it couldn't give me the answer. It just said, "Is this your question?" And it couldn't actually even give me the answer. So there's obviously a lot of inconsistency, and it doesn't all play together right. So main idea behind this is that you should have a tiered level of access. Depending on the type of question you're asking, the AI should classify that into whether it's a public question, an account specific question, or a more sensitive question requires more security. So also the other thing is if AI is going to become more prevalent, you want people to trust it. Pew Research has shown that there's definitely a level of distrust, especially among older non-technology like prevalent, like people that use it every day or came up with it, they don't trust it as much. So you can, even if you make a great chatbot that answers a lot of questions, people don't trust it. It's not. What's the point? So the basic idea between the system is that the user asks a question to the front end, back end determines where this question goes. It makes sure to give you a certain level of security that needed, and then it either returns the correct answer or you have to put in more put in another level of security. There's also a privacy mode that if you were talking to a screen, you don't want it to reveal all your information behind it. It would only provide the minimum amount of it. But one of the other key things about this is that you actually have a physical key to access some of your level of security. I feel like a key is a very tangible thing that most people understand, that you have to put in a key to unlock your data, and when it's not in there, it's locked and it's safe. So it's something I feel that is very tangible and relatable to people of all generations. So let's see. So yeah, this is what it looks like. You start off, and this right now, I made a few different modes, whether for banking, for medical, government, so you can ask different kind of questions. Right now, if you were to ask a question, what is APR? That is, so right now it's in public access mode. So it asks the question, what is APR? You get a response, and it also has a checkable citations where you can see where it pulled the information from, which is another way to increase the trust that it actually is pulling information. It's not just guessing. It knows where it got the information from, and you can read it to double check or get more information. So now if you wanted to ask a more specific question, like what is my account balance, say you have to send a one-time password for it. So you send request. Takes a minute for some reason. There it goes. Send it in, verify. Now you're logged in. It's no longer public access. It's an authenticated session. So you ask the same question. It tells you what your checking account balance is. Now, if you wanted to ask, if you were at some kind of place with a public screen, you don't want people to see your information, you wanted to ask, can I make a $1,500 transfer? It says yes. You have that amount available, but doesn't give any other information. So as if it was in standard mode, it would tell you, it would show what your information would be. And if you were asking some kind of question that required a higher level of authentication, what are my last 5 transactions? It won't answer. You actually probably can't see on the screen, but it's actually asking for the passcode QR code. And once I push the level and YubiKey, then it gives the answer. So that's the basic idea behind it. Depending on the kind of question you're asking, you can get a different level of security. So let's see. Yeah, so why does this matter? So obviously, as it becomes more prevalent, you want people to be able to trust your chatbot, and you want it to be appropriate for where it is. What the type of questions you're asking, you shouldn't have to be able to log in and require a higher level of authentication if you're asking what time is my appointment, as opposed to like for if you were going to a doctor, you're asking what time is my next checkup appointment, compared to something that might have your social security number on it or your health insurance information. So some of the differences is, like I said, is that we use WebAuthn, and depending on the security state, you get different kind of trust, and it makes it less friction and easier for the user to understand. The process should feel natural stepping up into it. It shouldn't feel confusing or anything like that. And it's also adjustable too. So depending on what the environment would be, that you can model the sensitivity, the requirements for it, how often you push for a WebAuthn. You can leave it to where every single request requires it, whether or it stays logged in for a certain amount of time. So some of the future work that I'd like to do for this project would be to improve the classification. I just tested on some dummy data I made up. Right now, it also only uses keyword classification. A previous version I had actually used Gemini as the backend for the language model. Right now, so that would be something interesting to do to improve it. So that way, when users ask questions, it's easier to understand. But you would also need to make sure that the language model only has access to the question. It doesn't actually have access to the database. That you would want to keep that separate. And right now, also for the privacy mode, it's using the toy zero knowledge proof version. It doesn't actually have a cryptographic library or anything running it. So importing that would make it more secure as well. Yeah, I'd like to thank my advisors, Nettie and Sean, and also the National Science Foundation and the SCIPE program for supporting this work. Does anyone have any questions?
How does it determine that the prompt contains sensitive information? That is also a lot of backend.
Say it again.
Like-
How does it classify?
Yeah, how does it determine?
Well, so right now in this version, right now that's why I kind of just have wait here. That's why I kind of just have keywords set up right now, because it doesn't actually have an LLM, but you can always just teach it into where the question would go to. It would know what the question is asking, and that question requires a certain amount of classification or security access. So right now I kind of just have keywords set up because it doesn't have an LLM to actually sort it. But in any kind of future version, it would know that this level of access requires this level of security. So that's what a language model would help determine what the person's actually asking for. And you would always want to err on the side of more safety. If it's not sure if what this question is actually asking, or the level of security, you always want to need more security than less. Any other questions? All right.